Welcome back to the final fabrication video on this aluminum bed on this truck. This time I'm going to round the corners and do some detail work, get it painted, and get it ready for the PRI show. Thanks for joining. Okay, so we're going to round these corners. The back corners are welded. They're 45 or whatever they are, 30. And the front ones, I want this round to match the cab. So what I did is I just picked something. I got a sand disc. I looked for several different things. I came up with several different radiuses. I didn't like any of them. This is the one I like. So this web is about 3/16. So I'm setting my sand disc about 3/16 to a quarter off of the outside edge, and I marked it. And I also marked on my sand disc where it starts and ends. So I can take this over and we'll make a aluminum plate. So let's start with those two. What I did originally here is I just laid my sand disc on the piece of aluminum and I copied the outside. I had my start and stop point. I drew that and then I just cut a chunk out, and I actually used a tape measure and I went 2 inches or 1 3/4 because it is 1 3/4. I marked it and I marked it and I marked it and I marked it. I just kept coming around and marking it, and then I connected the dots. That gave me the equal inside radius to that outside radius. This is why I like a bandsaw. I've got my other bandsaw over there for cutting metal, steel, and I used it because it's got a 1/2-inch blade. I was going to cut the inner circle with that because it would bend, make more of a turn. That didn't last long. This thing right here will spoil you. That does happen on occasion. A little wedge gets down in there. I don't know if you noticed what I did there, but I cut close to my mark, that close. And the reason I did that because I can just whack it. I made flat, 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 just straight cuts because of that big wide 3/4-inch blade. That allowed me to come back and cut it in one swoop. And that little piece that's left over just bends out of the way. We'll do it again. do is get most of this material out of my way. So that there's no way that 3/4 inch blade will bend that radius. I'm gonna get most of it out of the way. Then I'm gonna make little cuts. Right to my line. Now that I've made all the little cuts, I'm going to come back and follow the line. So that's a wood cutting, meat cutting, and aluminum cutting blade. I think it's 8 and 11, 8 skip teeth 11. So it's a very coarse blade. It makes a really rough cut, but I've got sanders to fix that. So I'm gonna do this other one, and then we'll go over there to my other favorite tool. All right, so the saw puts a really rough cut because it's a meat cutting blade. It's like almost next to cutting it with a chainsaw, but it does a pretty good job and it does it quick. So I've got a couple different sanders that I couldn't live without. This one here has like a 4-inch radius wheel at the top, that's 4-inch diameter. So I'm just gonna sand the inside, because you'll see this inside. It'll be the edge of the channel iron. I'm making a piece of channel iron out of some plate aluminum. Yeah, I could draw it, email it to send, cut, send, and have a much nicer piece, but not as quick. So there's what it looks like in just a second. I'll knock the burrs off the edge after I come back. I'm going to do the outside. You can still see my line. When I cut, I leave the line visible.
Let me see the sanded side so I can focus on it. There you go.
So unsanded side, that's just the saw cut. Sanded side. So this is all going to get sanded. The top will get sanded when I put it on. You'll see all that coming up. But by leaving the line, I don't know if you can see my black line.
Yeah.
I've got something to sand to. It's a little bit warm, so I'm going to stop and go over there and cool it off after I do about half of it. Now, I never, some people have the spinning disc sanders. I don't like them. It's like, kind of like if I use this and I was to sand that outer radius with my grind going perpendicular to the piece of work. I like to do it this way So that looks like a nice factory finished edge around there. Same with the inside. The ends I did because I wanted them flat. And if you try to do that on there, you'll always end up with a little round on each corner. But now that I've done that, I usually switch belts. So I keep belts laying right here. That's a brand new one, so it's kind of stiff. And that's 80 grit. Once they get some of the grit off of them, they go on and off. Okay, so this one's ready to weld on once I cut this. So I'm going to cut my frame. I'm going to cut this out, cut it off actually. I'm just going to cut it square, weld these on top and bottom, and then I'll bend the plate around it. So I'll get these ground up and then we'll cut that off. All right, I am going to cut this the hard way. I'm going to use this air saw. I'm going to start with this air saw. I may end up with something else. I'm going to squirt a little WD-40 on it. See how bad this sucks. This is a good air saw. It's an actual motor driven one. Cut this off. So what I'm going to do is weld that corner in. And it moved just a little bit, but nothing serious. So I'll have to spread it out just a little bit. I can see it moving. I'm going to weld this in. Then we're going to do the other side, flip it over, do the top, and then we'll plate it. So let me, yeah, I can spread that out by hand. I'm going to clean up my mess because I don't like stepping in that metal, and I got WD-40 in the floor now. And then we'll come back and weld that in. Let's get the welder over here. I have to locate my helmet. Okay, I've got to wipe the ink. This is my pattern. I started off with the pattern. This is some acetone on a paper towel. That ink just messes with the weld so bad. I'm gonna grind these down once I weld them on. I'm not gonna leave the welds. Now my hands have acetone on. I can feel it through my gloves. I'll probably set my hand on fire. Let's see. I would really like to have this pushed out. Okay, so it's a little bit of a struggle here. I'm gonna tack it not in place. It's gonna be up above, and it may break off when I try to bend it down in there. That's just smoke in my glove. Ooh, that's hot. So what I'm going to try to do, there, that worked. Okay, so I'm going to, it's really hard to do. I need 3 legs. Can you push down on that? Just hold it down. Let up just right there.
Wait,
You got it.
I had to focus.
Okay, I gotta clamp this down because it's not happy the way it is. That's broke loose. Let me get some clamps. Because that moved just a little bit. Normally I would have Debbie able to help with that, but she's kind of busy with the camera right now. So we're doing both, 2 things here. We're trying to record and weld a piece in where this whole thing sprung just a little bit. Okay, that looks perfect. Flat. I didn't think it did. I thought it was uglified, but it's not.
Am I doing anything?
Not now. Okay, so that's in place. And yeah, that looks good. That's nice and flat. Let me take this clamp off. So come down and eyeball around here just so they can see. This is pretty much flat. It's cooling down, it's warping up a little bit, but that's pretty flat around there. So flat enough till I have something on the top, and then we'll plate that. I'm gonna whack it with the hammer just a little bit. And when we turn it over, I can put a big, thick, gnarly weld inside. Out here, I'm going to weld thick, but I'm going to grind it down, so I need it to penetrate really good. Well, I just broke the welds because I didn't make them very thick, so I'm going to have to step that game up a little. let me redo that. I'm gonna put some burn down in there. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and weld them on top and make them really burn them down in deep. Do that same thing here. That way the tacks won't break. That shouldn't just break off. And that's flat. That's what it's supposed to look like. Now what I'm going to do is the other side, and then we'll turn it over, do the tops, and then I'll grind that after the fact. But that gives us the beginning of a round corner, as you can see. So let's get the other side done. All right. So like I said, I did what was the top. It was upside down. We did the curve on the bottom, which was the top, turned it over, did the curve on top. And yeah, those are ugly because I'm burning them in. Those are big welds. I'm trying to burn them all the way through. I'll grind these off so you won't even know they're there. What I've done is I've cut a plate, and first of all, I've got this piece of 2x2 tubing in here, cranking down on that C-clamp over there to arrange it to where this is running flat through here. Once it got released, once this was cut loose, they stepped a little bit, just a little bit. So they won't hold just the top and bottom plate. It's going to take the front plate to make it stay. So this is 1/4 inch. This is, and I'm not sure the grade. It's not 6061. It's just plate aluminum, and it's beer can grade. So whatever that is, I don't remember the number. It's a 3000 series plate, very soft. But I'm going to make it even softer because it doesn't have to be. It'd be like this channel iron. Once you put the heat to this stuff, it loses its heat treat anyway, which this is extruded. It's not hard. So I've got to bend this around, and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do it, but I always just do stuff as I go, try to figure it out. I've actually got a big roller downstairs in the other shop that I could run that through, but I'd have to make the strip longer because it'll start and stop, whatever, 1.5 inches or 2 inches before it starts bending. So I'm not willing to go down there and try to dig this thing out for this little piece. What I'm going to do is I'm going to heat it with a torch, or I'm going to soot it. I'm going to turn it black, and then I'm going to burn the soot off. And you have to be very careful because that aluminum will fall apart before you realize what's happening. And I don't want to ruin the flatness of this piece of aluminum, so I got to be careful not to get it too hot. But ideally, if you soot it and then burn the soot off, that's kind of the temperature where annealing takes place. It'll take me a minute to get my air bled out of my torch. Okay, there's the soot. Now adjust the torch, and I'm going to burn that off, but it's real easy to get it too hot. Even though this is a soft piece of plate, I want to make it softer. You can see it disappearing. done it around here a lot, but I've also, in my typical A-type personality, I tend to get it too hot. And I can ruin it, but that's not. So I'm going to try. My gut wants me to use a rubber hammer, but I don't want to bend it, ruin a rubber hammer. So I'm going to just start. Man, my wrist is so sore today. Okay, that's 1/4 inch aluminum plate, and it's bending that easy. I'm gonna put a little more heat to it because I don't want to goober it up. I'm gonna put a little more heat back a little bit further. I was real light on that soot. I'll just give it another shot of soot. I need a little bit of heat right here. And I don't want to do it out there. I'll probably do this 2 or 3 times to keep from just heating the whole thing. That looks pretty good. So I could and probably should stop and weld this, but I'm not going to because I usually don't do what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to soot it one more time. The main reason I just don't want it, all of a sudden, aluminum doesn't change color. It'll just all of a sudden fall out. And I'm not getting it nearly that hot, but I'm being extra careful too. Okay, so what I did was I measured my plate on this top, and I'll show you what I did there. I took a piece of welding rod and I put it right in here in the end, and I bent it around until it touched the other end. I cut it, then I flattened it out and I measured. That was 6 3/8 inches. And when this is pulled up, that'd be perfect, but it's not at the bottom. This is cut just a little bit crooked because you saw me do it with a air-powered saw. So what I'm gonna do is touch that up. But that worked well. It bent really well. Let me find my air-powered saw. Here, I see it over here. I'm just going to open that gap up, and then I'll weld it top and bottom. I'm here to tell you that's hot. That touched my knuckle on there. I'm going to grind it just a little bit. My black grinder laying here. I think that's enough gap, but I'm going to straighten it up. Come on. Okay, I think now, what do I want to do? I don't think I want to bend it anymore. I think I'm going to clamp it. Let's see what happens right here. What it does, and I'm going to leave this, let me take it off and cool it. But look right here. See how tight that is? I can weld that corner And that's really nice and tight, fits really good. Looks like I need to knock it down just a little bit, or actually pry this up. Let's see, watch it right here as I do this. This plate was rectangled, so I used a square to cut it. But see, that's not quite as much of a gap as it is back here. This should increase that gap. Okay, that's better. Let's see. I need that to go up more than that. I guess I gotta crank it even more.
Right now it is. Just opening up. It's better.
Yep, that's almost, oh. Now, since that slipped, I can't believe that clamp would have been holding that. That's too much now. Let's let it back up. I didn't think it would take that much pressure, but it was. Okay, so that's close to perfect. What I want to do is clamp right here. I need to get a different kind of clamp. Let me get a C-clamp over here. So I got a 4-inch C-clamp, and I'm just going to put it on here and see if I can suck that in. And the main reason is not because I need it in right now, but because I want to, it'll cause it to twist. And I want to make sure the top is right. See how soft that is? That C-clamp actually put a bow in that. I'm real tempted to hit that with a hammer, but I know I'll knock my C-clamps off. So I'm going to let that down just a little bit. I went up too high with this. I kind of like that. Okay, so I've got about the same step around here. I'm going to start welding it. I'm just going to put tacks on here, and then I can take this clamp off and knock this in. That's when I can fix this bow right here. But for now, it fits, you know, 3/4 of it fits really well. So there's 2 big tacks. Now, that thing decided to let itself go. Where's my hand? See this bow that I've got here? Because I had it clamped at the top and the bottom. That's just about as straight as you can get. So I'm going to weld right here. And then I'll probably weld some down at the bottom to hold it in place. It's fitting. Look inside here. See how it fits that curve down there? Let it focus. There's no gap. It just fits like watertight. So I don't have to worry about any of that. I'm going to weld it good right here, and then we'll weld down that vertical. And I'll weld this up and grind it. Okay, look at that mess. Well, it's only kind of a mess, so give me some slack here. I just built up and built up and built up, so it looks like crap, but I'm gonna grind it all. It's gonna be laying on the floor here in just a minute. So this thing's gonna be flattened out, ground out, and I gotta turn it over and do the bottom. Inside I welded, so it's kind of like the actual I-beam or channel iron. It goes around, so it's got a nice bead inside, and I'll do that up underneath, and then these will be left. I'll leave them because nobody's ever going to see this. There'll be wood here, so when I touch this up, grind the top, grind the face of it, that round corner is going to be sexy. Stand right here and look. This is really a cool view. So you get the view of the angle coming down to the cab, the nice round corner like the cab, and then it goes into this bow, and all of this will look made together. So I think it looks really good. So getting ready to put the grinder to it and the DA, and then we'll come back and show you what that looks like. I like to score a little WD-40 on it. It helps it cut. I'm going to be slinging that right up. See that? Magic just happened. I mean, I'm just like I should go to work in Vegas as a magician. That will be, you won't see it. I just made that weld disappear. Okay, there's the top. I'm going to do the front, and then I'll DA this mess. Okay, so there's one corner. Looks pretty good. Of course, it's going to get painted, so we don't care about the scuff marks and what have you, but I really like, this was my vision. I love seeing this come around, make the nice corner, and then it goes into this swoop. I think that's just a really nice touch to make it look a little bit out of the ordinary, not just belly button. So what I've got to do is turn it over. I'll do both tops like this. I got to turn it over and weld. This hasn't been welded. I've welded it on the inside on the bottom so it's stable, but I got to build the corner up just like I did this. I'll weld it up thick, then I'll grind it down, and we'll be done. That thing looks awesome. This back here. So I came in this morning and finished that up. Both sides are finished, round, 1/4 inch plate, 1/4 inch strap. So this is going to look really good. Then Debbie's been sanding on it, getting it ready for primer. So we're just scuffing it up with 80 grit, well actually 180 grit. And that'll help the epoxy primer to stick, and then it'll get semi-gloss black paint. But before I can finish that, I'm going to plate this. But I told you the other day in one of the videos that I was going to, this is upside down, remember, that I'm going to make a filler panel that goes right here, because the way it is, that's just open. This filler panel will go here, and then from here out to the corner of the bed, I'm going to do some kind of swoop-de-doo. So I've made this morning, and I did going to record it, but I can show you kind of what it is. It's 1/8 inch plate, which I got a big sheet and we got a big bandsaw, so I'm cutting that out. I bent it first, the whole thing, instead of cutting it and bending it, because I want it to have the round appearance, this radius edge all the way. If I cut it first, that would be square and this would be round, and I don't want that look. So I actually bent a 1 inch lip and a 1/2 inch lip, 1/2 inch on the ends. I bent it, and then with my big bandsaw, I'm able to sit there and trim it out. So I've notched it, and it goes in here like this. I'm gonna actually weld this in. So I'm just clamping it for now. But you can see down here, that'll just be a nice, clean gap. It's rolled back in a little bit, so that'll look really good. I'll do something similar out here, but since I'm gonna swoop this, I won't be able to do that here, not with 1/8 inch. If I was using thinner sheet metal, I could tip it on my bead roller over there. I could tip it into that shape and make a flange on it, but I'm not gonna do it out of thin sheet metal just to be able to do that. I'm gonna use the same 1/8 inch plate, so that'll probably have a sharp edge on it. I could, if I want to get serious, weld an edge on it. I really don't want to, but you never know. You can comment what you think. Should I go ahead and weld a 1 inch edge on this thing? You really won't see it, but if you happen to be down and you looked up, you'd see it, and it would be stronger. So that just came to my mind. But those will also, they'll weld on the inside. You won't see any of the welds. I'll tack them in here and to this panel. So that's done. The front one is done. The front one won't get anything else. It'll just be so when the cab is tilted, you'll be able to look in here and you won't see that big gap. So that's actually going to look really good. I just put a little bow to it just by bending it over this. I made it a 1/2 inch wide flange because my little brake would bend a 1/2 inch flange. A 1/4 inch flange, they don't do such a good job on it, especially with this 1/8 inch plate. It just doesn't want to bend a nice bend. So I bent it a 1/2 inch, and then I scribed it and I just ran it through the saw and took that down to 1/4 inch. And the reason I did that, because I could just bend it right here to fit. I just bowed it over that. So that's going to be the same as the back. It'll just be a filler panel. That'll look really good. So that's where we're at. I got some more welding to do, but it's finally getting there. Getting these corners rounded was a big deal. Getting it sanded is a big deal. Getting these plates all made, and then it's ready for paint. 5:30 now, so it'll be tomorrow before we get it painted. But tomorrow we'll get some black on it if it's not raining outside. My booth is full. I got to set this on sawhorses out back to do it. So fingers crossed we can paint it tomorrow. New day, hopefully the last day on fab. So I showed you the front and back filler panels, which I really like. I love the tight crack. I clamped them in and welded them this morning. And then I started this last night. I made a poster board pattern that I thought would look good. It's kind of hard to know being upside down, but it will look good, I'm pretty sure. Debbie ordered taillights yesterday. She got the 48 to 53, I believe, stock taillights that'll go. I'm going to put them right here. They're a little bucket with a little kind of a square tombstone looking lens. They're LED. I really like those. I thought about putting some in here. We even found some that we had nice oval LED taillights. They would have worked really well and easy, but Debbie found those stock Chevy, so it would have been the taillights this truck would have had it been a pickup truck. And it occurred to us that it just doesn't, we don't want street rod looking back here, because it's really not. I mean, it's so period correct. The front's got the stock lights, everything is stock. It's got the big mirrors. I didn't want to take away from the cab over or the COE or the period look on the thing. So she found those little tombstone lights, and I really like them. I'm excited to get them here. So this may look a little swoopy. You know, I worked around a bunch of welder guys, and I welded in the oil field for a short period of time, and their truck beds that they had their Miller machine setting on are stuck in my mind. They had tail lights. Most all those guys had tail lights at an angle. They had a filler panel like this, but it was almost always a straight line. And I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want the welder bed look. So it does have a little bit of swoop, but it's kind of like Debbie said, it swoops like the cab. The cab's got curves. So the bed has a curve right here. And I think it'll look okay. It's going to be black, so it's not going to stand out real big anyway. So what I did this morning, and I didn't do a great job of welding, I quickly stuck this on here. I cut out an 1/8" plate, cut that shape. I bent a flange on the bottom and I bent a flange in here, clamped it all down, and it's solid. And now I'm getting ready to, I just cut some 1-inch strips. I'm gonna put this in here, and as I go, I'm gonna bend it down so it will have, in the last video I asked, in fact, I think you can probably see me, it occurred to me what I should do. And I wasn't sure I wanted to, and I really don't want to still, but I'm going to, because the rest of the bed just deserves that. So that's coming up. I'm going to fill that, and then I'm going to do the same thing in here. Even though you'll never see that, I don't want the sharp edge if the tire does sit down on it. It just doesn't look finished. So all I've got left is these two top pieces, those two fenders or wheel openings, and then I'm going to tip it up and start welding the welds that I want to do horizontally rather than vertically. And Debbie's got most of it sanded on this side, and then it's time to take it out and paint. But guess what? It's been hot. I mean, this is record. This is like the last day of October, right? Yeah. And it's record high heat, and it's dry. We had burn bands on. The grass crunches under your feet, but not today, because I'm going to be painting outside. Today it's raining and it's cold. So this will be ready late today, but I probably won't get to paint it unless I make room in my paint booth, which is kind of hard to get to. But maybe tomorrow it'll be a little warmer and drier. So there's my strip. I'm going to weld in here. I could just weld and bend as I go, but this stuff's so easy to work with. Let's just put some bend in it before. I sanded one edge on the belt sanders to give it kind of a factory smoother edge. So it's easiest, best probably, just to do a little pre-bending so you don't have to have it under stress while you're trying to bend it and work with it as you weld. It doesn't have to be exact. But what I'm going to do well, on that end, I'll use the anvil probably. So that's pretty darn close. Okay, on this end, let's take it over to the anvil. Everything's kind of tight in here right now. I'm just guessing. Let's take it back over here and see how bad I missed it. I don't think it's too bad. What I'm going to do is bead down. Perfect. Okay, so see all I did. I can bend it more, but let's bend it just a little bit more. I think I unbent it some when I was beating on it over there. Okay, so I'm going to line that up down there where it's going to go. I'll mark this right here. And I'm going to round this corner. Matches that. I'll grind that down just a little bit, but again, I get to use my favorite tool. My camera doesn't move as fast as I do. I need to get a drone that's remote controlled that flies over me. That's kind of the story of our life. He's always behind me. And it's not because I want to be a husband that looks like a controller, but if I slow down to a crawl, she'll still be 10 feet back. So bear with us. I don't expect this to work right, but it doesn't have to exactly. And the reason is my weld will fill that. So it's really not too bad. You see right there, I'm going to grind that weld just a little bit so it lays down, but I can weld that, and then it doesn't match the radius on the corner. That would be back here. So I may shorten it just a little bit. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind this, but I'm going to step it. Do something like this. So the radius will be back there, and I can use that as a piece of filler. So I'll go back to do that on the bandsaw, and then I've made my piece. We've already got the other one done over there, and that's the next to the last thing. I'm gonna weld this piece, this filler piece in here, which I didn't think I was gonna do. I was gonna leave it sharp, and I was gonna leave these sharp, but I can't do it. So this is gonna be the finishing touch. This is the cherry on the cake. And then I'm gonna take it out and steam clean it. But what I did is I just made that cardboard pattern, lay it out and cut it out on my big old bandsaw. And you know, one way to do it, the right way to do it would be run it through a roller, which I have, that's in the other shop, but I didn't want to take the time. I just bend it over this piece of angle here, and you can see the little scratches in it, and it fits in nice. So I made it fit nice, and as I'm welding it, it's pulling away a little bit, but see, it just fits up like it should. I'll just fuse it and make it stick, and then I'll go back and weld it in good. And I'll turn it over. When I turn this thing over, I'll actually do some welding on the backside, because I am grinding this weld off, so there's a little bit of penetration that gets down in there, but not a ton. So I'll weld it in the back where I can reach it. But this is good enough for it's just a decorative piece, really. But this is kind of how I do it. I just fight it till I get it right. Sometimes it'd be easier to get up and get a clamp, but I don't want to take the time. In this case, that has a little bit of gap, and I actually like that. That gives it the ability to penetrate deeper. When it fits really tight, it's nice. I can just touch it with a torch and fuse it. You know, don't have to use any rod. Really, I need 3 hands if I'm doing it with rod, but the gap actually makes for a stronger weld. I am going to get something and raise that up just a little bit right there. It's just a 10 thousandths too long, and it's hanging on the frame itself. It's not a problem. I could just go with it, but I'm going to clamp it and just pull it up just a little bit. Right there. One thing that I'm always concerned about when I weld on something like this, if I just start welding and thinking about donuts, then this gets so hot that you think you're doing good, and you turn the frame over and you look at it and you realize that you just warped this frame. So I keep the air blower, and I'll probably weld between the tacks. That's pretty good because this aluminum will dissipate the heat real fast. And then as I weld this strip, I'll stop and cool it down. So I just don't want to warp. And it's so easy to do. You stand back after you're all finished and you're proud of it, and you look, and then you see the warp, and then there's not much you can do about it. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, hit that thumbs up button. If you really liked it, hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. It helps. I'm going to have some t-shirts available soon. Josh Rowan from Rowan Concepts did some really nice artwork. I'm just loving what he did. I've got the shirts ordered. I'm going to put a picture of the artwork here at the end of the video. Be sure to check back. The store will be up shortly, and I'd love for you to order a t-shirt. It definitely will help me out and keep this channel going. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. There's a few more of the truck, and then we're going to move on to other things. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.